Hello and welcome to the Healing Inside podcast with me, Sarah Hunt, and
Me, Jez Hunt.
for episode 5.
Yay!
Hello and welcome. We're on episode 5 today, and the subject that we thought we'd have a chat about was being creative.
Yes, creativity.
What does creativity mean to you, Jay?
Ooh, there's a question. For me, and the way I use it is for me connecting with my inner child and allowing myself to express myself in different ways. Being a bit cryptic here, but for example, the two main ways I am creative are with painting, which we can come on to, and playing guitar, which
Oh,
I'm.
I didn't know you did that. You kept that one very quiet.
Hey, I'm not. I can just about pick the beginning of one song. That's about as far as I've got. So, anyway, we'll we'll come on to that another time.
You got yourself in a pickle there, haven't you?
Well, I'm not going to play it. I'm not going to play it live, so it's okay.
Oh, phew. Listeners, it's okay. You haven't got to be subjected to that just yet.
So it's for me, it's just expression. It's expressing myself. But you can be creative dancing. I mean, it's just that time to express yourself. But where it comes for me, and the reason I do it is for mindfulness. And we touched in episode 4. We touched about when we talked about meditation. We talked about mindfulness, about being in the moment. So actually, I hadn't thought of this, but actually painting for me is meditative for me,
Yeah.
because I am absolutely for that the lessons that I'm doing, or when I'm painting, I allow myself sort of 2 to 3 hours normally. Then for that 2 to 3 hours, the only thing I'm focused on is what I'm doing, that painting that I'm doing in the moment. I'm not worried about what's going to happen after I've finished my painting or that. I've just allowed the time. I know the time's blocked out, and it's just about being in that moment. So creativity, that's how I use it, and that's how I use it to express myself. But there are lots of ways you can be creative.
Yeah, you see, creative to me is about moving outside of the box. So you can be creative doing arty farty things.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
painting, craft work, all that sort of thing. But it's more than that to me. It's about allowing yourself to expand outside of your comfort zone.
Mm-hmm.
And you can do that at work as much as you can do that at home. And I had some students that I was having a chat with recently, and they were talking about how they're in their heads at work. And I'm like, so why aren't you in your hearts? Why aren't you using your intuition at work? Because actually, that might allow you to serve your customers, clients, whoever, better than just going within the rigid rules of this is what you must do. There are sometimes there are other ways that are better, and it's about being creative. So like you said, that kind of brings it back to expressing yourself, because you can be in a work situation and be creative and express yourself, which will make you feel a lot happier than just doing what you're told. And as well as being in a situation where you're painting, or where you're knitting or crocheting or doing a jigsaw. Jigsaws is something that I have always found a great way of just it's probably another meditative state, isn't it? But it's a way of allowing you to express yourself in a roundabout kind of way. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because but also I'm a painter as well. my paintings are not, well, they're different, aren't they, to yours? Very
Yeah,
different.
absolutely.
And mine are channeled paintings. So again, it's kind of a meditative state. But then I would say that anybody that's channeling, that's painting, is channeling without realizing they're doing it. And all that means is they're going into a meditative state and allowing their soul to guide them with what it is they need to paint. And it's the same with people that write as well. And I've certainly written books in the past, and um, it's a way of being creative, isn't it?
Absolutely. Creative writing. And, I mean, you can do creative writing in a journal. You don't necessarily have to write a book to be creative in your writing.
No, absolutely, that's true.
And I think, you're right. You mentioned about box, thinking outside the box. And one of the things I have come to understand from my perspective is, what if there is no box? We talk about inside the box, so constrained. Yeah. We talk about outside the box, but there's still an element of constraint there. Whereas if you say, well, what if there was no box? What if anything is possible? Which I believe it is. But if we are true limitless beings and anything is possible, then there is no box, there is no constraint, only that which we put on ourselves.
Yeah.
And I will say put on ourselves, because people might be saying, oh yes, but at work, for example, well, we have rules, we're not allowed to do that because that's the way it's done. Well, okay. And there might be a valid reason why that's done in that way for that business. But sometimes it's being done in that way because that's how they've always done it for the last 40 years, not because it was actually tested, measured, tweaked to be the best thing or the quickest, most efficient, most productive way of doing something.
I think that what you've said about what if there is no box, that's kind of a big light bulb moment for me, because I've not realized what I've done with talking, about thinking outside the box. It's kind of, which is to get people to understand that they need to be more expansive. But like you say, if there's no box there, then anything is possible. And I've always believed that anything is possible. But thank you. That's just kind of given me a bit of a light bulb moment of, oh, actually, you're still putting a restriction in there that doesn't need to be there.
Absolutely. Well, I'm glad that's been of help. Well, my job is done for this episode then.
I think creativity is, it tends to be just thought of, though, doesn't it, as doing things like painting. And people, I don't know about you, but at school, you were kind of labelled as either very scientific or creative.
Yeah.
And I was a creative being that ended up being pushed along the sciencey route, which I think happens a lot, doesn't it? But to me, it's a way of shutting down those creative skills.
Absolutely. I mean, so in some ways, I was very similar to you. I was pushed down the engineering route from a school point of view, the logical side of it. And maybe I am a bit logical in that sense, and very detail orientated. But I remember I was told by my art teacher, so this is pre-O level. So for you younger listeners, O levels were before GCSEs.
Back in the dim and distant past, when nights were bold.
And I was told by my art teacher not to take art at O level because I was no good. I was never going to amount to anything, and it'd be a waste of my time. And it was last year. So background to my painting. I only started April last year. So April 2021. Yep. April 2021. I started lessons. I'd never picked up a paintbrush other than maybe doing some skirting boards or a wall in a room. I'd never creatively painted ever, anything. And I'm actually not that bad. I've sold 9 paintings now.
Wow. That's good.
So that was because I allowed... Okay, so that comment made by that art teacher planted a seed in my head that I then chose to believe for all of my life up until April last year, that I was no good and I would never be any good at painting. And it was just a friend of mine encouraging me to do, I'm doing these online lessons, they'll take beginners, they'll take anyone, it doesn't matter, just come and have a go. And I absolutely love it. And I've done, since I started, even if there haven't been a lesson, I've done one painting a week since,
Fabulous.
every single
Um,
week.
it's interesting, isn't it? Because I remember we had this project in arts at school where we needed to do something that was black one side and white the other. And I remember painting this beautiful tree that I made it as near as I could the same on both sides. And one side was black and one side was white. And I got a real high mark for that. And I was like, yes, fabulous. And then I've had trouble with understanding how to paint in perspective. And I got 10% for the art exam and was told, same as you, told that I was useless. There was no point in me trying to do anything with it. And I kind of gave up on art as well. And then my art started when I started my spiritual journey. Well, certainly when I started my businesses, and I realized that that the beings of pure love and pure light that worked with me wanted me to mess around first of all with I didn't go straight to paint. I used brain's gone, what are they called?
Crayons.
No, not crayons.
Oh,
Not pencils.
oh, now I've gone blank. I know what you mean.
Not chalk.
No, yeah,
Listeners, help us out. I've forgotten the word. Grandma moment.
yeah. You have pastels,
Pastels. That was
chalk
it.
and chalk pastels and oil pastels. Yeah,
yeah, chalk pastels and oil pastels. And so I started with pastels, and I was having a clear out at the weekend, and I found some pastel work that I'd done in 2011. So that must have been around the time that I started doing a bit of artwork. And I was looking through them thinking, gosh, they're really childlike. But what it made me realize was how much my artwork has developed just by when I get the feeling of I need to do a bit of painting, that that it's so it's developed and changed. But I think this is a reminder as well, as you can't compare your creative work to somebody else's creative work. All you can do is look back where you started and where you've got to, and that's a bit like your spiritual journey as well, isn't
yeah,
it? It's where you started to where you've got to, and you can see the changes and you can see how it's developed. So I've moved from working with pastels into working on canvas with acrylics, but I also work on wood as well, with acrylics, which has been quite an interesting experience. And then from there, my creativity has been developed to use to use those items and create, or those paintings, and create other items from them. So I've got cushions lying around the house with angels all over them, which come from my own creative work. And that, when I think back to my art teacher, it's kind of like, it's perspective, isn't it?
yeah,
It is perspective, and what one person perceives as being good at something and creative is very different from what somebody else perceives. But it's also, like you said, I think it's really important to know that a comment like that, you're useless, or getting a 10% exam mark, is enough to put a block on you, and you literally go into, I can't do this, I'm useless, I'm no good at this, when actually you can put your hand to anything, you can do anything. And if you keep whatever it is that you're being creative with and doing, you'll notice how you evolve and change and grow with it. And that's what it's about. It's not about necessarily being a world famous painter. Maybe you will be before you decide to leave the planet, Jay, but
maybe.
it's not about that, is it? It's about it's coming back to this, being in the moment and expressing yourself and allowing what you're feeling to be transcribed in some way into something
Yeah,
that means something to you. Does
yeah,
that make sense?
yeah. Art. If we're just talking art for a minute, and creative writing is artful. Creative dance is artful, but art is subjective, and I could have a room of 100 people and put one painting up, and you would have a number of people that would hate it, a number of people that were indifferent to it, and a number of people that might like it. But that's okay. It's the same painting. And when you realize that actually it's not about that, if someone's meant to like it, if someone likes it, then they will like it. I've been to art galleries and things in the past. You look at Van Gogh or Rembrandt or Monet or whatever. There are paintings that I like and there are paintings that I don't like by any of those artists. And that's okay, because that is what it, for me, that's about another benefit or another point of creativity, is allowing you just to let whatever is inside you come out in a way that someone may or may not interpret it in some way. And it's okay for people not to like your work. It's okay for people to like your work. It's about letting go of the attachment of it. I've got paintings up, some of the ones that I've sold, I've got other ones that I think are better technically, or they're a better looking picture to me. But the pictures that have been bought have said something. They've called out to the person that's bought it. And that's okay. And that's, it's great from my point of view.
To me, that's what it's about.
Yeah.
If you're doing something like that and you want to sell your creative work, it's about it resonating with the person that's looking at what you're offering. But sometimes, doing something creative is for no one else but you.
Yeah.
No one else but you. And it's just taking you into the moment. It's teaching you about being in your heart space and doing what makes you feel happy. So whether that's doing painting, and that's something, a love that both of us happen to share, or whether that's dancing to your favorite music around the lounge with nobody able to see you, or in the kitchen, which
yeah.
I've got a friend that does it in the kitchen, which is why it probably came up earlier on. That is you being creative. That is you just doing what makes your heart sing. And that's what we're here to do. We're not meant to be stressed out and anxious and doing mundane stuff. We are meant to be living our best life by listening to our hearts and doing everything that makes our hearts sing. So whether that is painting, whether that's doing journaling, which is a form of creative writing, whether that is being creative out in the garden, re-landscaping your garden, changing things around in your garden, or maybe being creative in your house and changing the decor and moving furniture around. That's all about being creative. It's all about doing what makes you feel happy.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just a great way of being. It's a great I look forward to my art sessions all week. I mean, it's to the point where, if I've done a really good week, that's my reward, if you like.
Do you need to reward yourself?
No, well, yes and no. No, but it's good. It's good to have that. I look forward to it.
No, it's something to look forward to, isn't it? Especially when you've got a busy week. But that's about self-care, isn't it? And loving yourself. It's about saying, no, this is my time, and that's what I would agree with you, that it's something to look forward to, and it's like, yeah, no, that's my time. I'm going to do that for me.
Yeah. And it's important. It's important to do stuff for you. We said last time about the amount of messages that bombard us, and that we can only process so much of it, and it's that overwhelm and of sensations and stuff that's going on all the time. So yeah, mindfulness and meditation is a way that we talked about last time of getting into the moment and being in the moment, but being creative in whatever way works for you, like some of the ones that you've said, or whatever way anyone thinks, oh, this is creative, pottery,
making cakes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because when you're decorating a cake, whether it's just little ones that you're putting a bit of icing and whatever on, or whether it's a big cake that you're doing for a birthday, whatever, that's being creative, isn't
or
it?
even just cooking an evening meal for the family. You can be creative. You don't have to, it's whatever you want it to be, and that's the point. It's subjective. It's whatever you feel is creative. but it's just allowing you to allowing yourself, not other people, allowing yourself to express yourself in some way that makes you happy. And yeah, you might, so let's say, I don't know, toad in the hole, sausages in batter, for those of you that don't know what toad in the hole is. But you know, so yes, it might traditionally be sausages in batter with, I don't know, a veg and mashed potato, for example. That's from our
Our
childhood, shall I
childhood,
say.
yeah.
That's what mum used to do. But you could make that a bit more creative, and actually you might put that on the table, and the kids you know, they might look at that and just go and just dive in and start eating it and not see the effort or the creative part that you put in. But that's okay. You know that you've done it with love and creatively, and actually it's for you anyway. If one of the children turns around and says, "Oh mum, that looks really good," bonus. but
Yeah,
it
absolutely.
doesn't matter, because it's not about having loads of people say, "Oh wow, look at that, that's really good, oh my goodness, aren't you brilliant." It's about expressing yourself for you. And
Yeah,
you said that a little while ago.
absolutely. And you know, when you're looking for the recognition, when you're looking for the praise or the
Validation.
validation, then you're in your head, and it's your ego that's wanting that. Because when you're in your heart, like you said, like we've already said, it's about just doing it for you and doing it with love. And this is this, you know, this is the same. You can take this into the workplace, and you can be in a job that could be considered really mundane, but if you allow yourself to express yourself within that role, you can be very happy in that role and enjoy it and get a lot out of it. Because if you do it, if you do that role in the way that feels right to you, that allows you to express yourself through it, then you will get the most out of that role that you possibly can, and that will allow you to grow and expand as a person as well. It may also get you some recognition, but that's, you know, it doesn't need to. It just would make the difference between, oh no, I've got to go to work, and actually I'm really looking forward to going to work today because I've got this idea and that idea, and I'm going to present it in this way or that way. It just
Yeah.
shifts, doesn't it? It just shifts your perspective on things.
Yeah. And you can, I mean, even if you do nothing more than be creative with your workspace, you know,
Yeah,
take a picture in, put things around that mean something to you, have a bit of pottery from your child's made at school that looks supposed to be a pot but is actually just a bunch of clay, or you know, I'm going back to my clay making as well. So
it's all right. My grandson showed me a bunch of straws yesterday that he got some tape around that he brought proudly home from school, and I discovered this morning because I was doing the school run that it was a whistle, and I was like, oh, that's amazing. It was a bunch of straws with a bit of tape around, but to him it was a whistle. And also he'd when he came out of school yesterday, he presented me with this plate with bits of pink on. So I said, Ramai, what's that? And he said, Nanny, it's a pig, but I forgot to put his curly tail and his ears on. And but to him it was a pig, and it was a 5-year-old's creation, and he'd been allowed to be creative at school. And you know, it was like, wow, that's great. We need to take it home and show mummy, you know, because we need to be making sure that children are being allowed to express themselves. So it's important as well, isn't it, to I've kind of shifted us there, but it's important for us to um what's the word I want, just to build the confidence in children. It doesn't matter what, you know, that was a plate with bits of pink tissue paper stuck all over it, but in his creative world that was a pig. And so I was like, yeah, that's great, it needs to go up. And anybody that comes into my house knows that I have got paintings and drawings from all 4 of my grandchildren up all over my kitchen cupboards. And when my children were small, anything that they made at school or they drew at home, which they really liked, went up on the kitchen cupboards. And I've always done that because I feel it's so important to encourage children, because if we can start with children, maybe that comes from my own childhood and being made to feel useless at painting, what have you. But if we can start with our children, build our children's confidence in being creative, it will help them as they move forward on their journey to understand that they need to be in their hearts and allow themselves to express themselves rather than shut themselves down.
Yeah, and if you think about it, as children, we are completely and utterly creative. There are no barriers and constrictions in the way we think, or a stone could be some magical place even. And yet, as we go through life, that creativity gets knocked out of us through society, through our parents, through comments by teachers of "you'll never be any good at art," for example. And we lose touch of that creative part of
That
ourself.
creative. Mm-hmm.
And for me, it's about, I mentioned this at the beginning, it's about connecting with my inner child. So it's going back to that place of, actually, it doesn't matter if I want to pretend that these bits of tissue paper stuck on a plate is a pig. That's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And how many times did we have the Lego out all over the floor? Do you remember?
Yeah, stepping on it. That's
Stepping on it. Ouch. Yes.
ouch. Yeah.
But back in the day, you used to buy Lego and just buy all the different bits, didn't you? We didn't have the Lego sets like
Not
they
the
do now
kits
to
like they
build
do
something
now.
specific.
Yeah.
And to me, that takes some of the creativity away, because when we had it, we had the stuff everywhere. I know Simon and I used to have it all over the floor. You were a bit younger, so I can't remember just how much you were involved with it, but we would build our own houses, and we would design them within the limitations of using Lego, but we would design them to our own design, and we would have different things that we would create out of Lego.
Yeah.
I remember doing things like, and I haven't seen children do it, and they probably do it, but I haven't seen them do it for a long time, and I used to do it with my kids. But we used to get a potato and cut it in half, and then create some kind of design on that potato, and then put it in the paint and stamp it on the page.
Oh, that's given me an idea for
Remember doing
another
that?
painting. Do some potato prints.
Potato prints. Do you remember
Excellent.
doing that?
I do.
The Meccano as well. We used to have Meccano out, and it didn't matter that I was a girl. I was involved as you guys were, and creating things out of Meccano as well, and learning how to do the nuts and bolts on it. So yeah, there's so much that children can teach us about being creative, I think. And then they just have wonderful imaginations where they'll allow themselves to be creative, won't they?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. No.
so yeah, I think, if you're struggling to be creative, look at a young child, watch how they play, watch what they do when they're with other children, when they're playing well together, and notice the how creative they really are, because it will just remind you of how creative you can be. Remember, there is no box.
Yep.
It's not around you. There is no box, unless you want a box there. And so you can put your you can put yourself into that heart-led place and do anything that you want to.
Absolutely. Just allow yourself to be in that moment. Just allow your inner child to come out and just play. Just play.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you haven't got children, go and find one. No, sorry. I mean, I don't mean go find one. I mean, speak to your friends who have children and go and play with their children with them, or that's what I mean. Not anything else.
or get a puppy and play with a puppy.
Yeah. Puppies, kittens.
The dogs can it can just take you into a moment of happiness, can't it? It's another thing that you could do.
Absolutely.
So hopefully we've given you some ideas of how to be creative today. And until next time, it's goodbye from me.
And it's goodbye from him.